Now today, I want to tell you about something crucial to this generation. Something truly just terrifying to everybody. Something that nobody wants to befall them in any sort of way. A job. I know, I took the wind out of your sails there a little bit. The suspense was probably killing you. Now, today we're going to be learning about a man who has kind of been taking it all up the butt. He's taking it a little bit rough, a little bit raw, and a little bit crispy. Now let's watch.
3,000. That's the number of jobs I've applied to as of today.
Now, as you can see, this guy is super fucking tired. Holy shit. I would be too after fucking struggling, crunching it out. Through 3,000 job applications? That is miserable.
Now, mind you, I have 25 years experience as a sales manager, 29 years as an event manager. I'm well overqualified for any job I apply to, but yet.
So, another thing, I'm sorry to cut him off again, but another thing is that a lot of these companies, they won't rehire people who are injured. They won't do that. Personally, I know of a coworker who got fired, or not fired, but, left the job market basically because she got a workplace injury and she worked in manufacturing. And she can't get any more manufacturing jobs because she's seen as a liability to that brand, And that shit like that really, really sucks. And there should be some sort of accommodation toward that, but it doesn't seem like it. And a lot of this, I want to touch on this a little bit more, but a lot of this boils down to AI in the job market, all right? Now, AI fucking has obliterated the job market. Basically, companies started using AI, right? And they started using them to auto-reject certain letterings, right? This happened like a year or two ago with, I believe, a college, or maybe it was some job place. But then, us normal people, we took the technology and amped it up to 11. We used bots to send our fucking applications out. Per usual, the working class does it again. So now, you have AI rejecting AI on a regular basis. So if you're just a normal guy like this guy, applying to just a shit ton of jobs over the course of a year, there's a high chance you just get rejected automatically. Or there are other things that companies will do where they'll say they're hiring, and then just before you're ready to get hired, they accidentally say, oh, sorry, the opportunity's gone now, which completely fucks you over. And that's kind of all I want to say on that.
These days, you have to actually look at the actual website versus Indeed or LinkedIn, but both of those sites are basically worthless. They're now becoming social media sites where it's more about popularity versus an actual job. So, I'm just putting it out there. Tomorrow is my birthday. It would be really nice if I could find work. So I'm putting that out there to the gods above. There's only so much resources that I can use before I run out of money. And frankly, the market is that bad. Is anybody else having that problem?
That is really fucking unfortunate. Yeah, a lot of people are having that problem. You don't see it a lot on unemployment graphs. Matter of fact, an unemployment graph looks kind of okay for the US, but that's because a lot of people are overeducated for the job that they work, or overqualified, I think is the term. Basically, you see a lot of really kind of high-tier jobs, or people that should be going into high-tier jobs, not being able to go into it, so they go for like a stopgap job, kind of like Starbucks, or like any fast food chain, or like Uber, that's a big one. And they'll end up at those places, and then they'll say, oh, I'll just do this until I can get my actual job that I want. And then the job market is so shit that they don't end up getting that job, so now they're just stuck working there. Which drives the unemployment number down, and drives the amount of like independent businesses up, because Uber technically contracts in a lot of cases. And just a bunch of stuff like that. It's really unfortunate. And it technically boosts people who, work two jobs, stuff like that. It looks like a positive on paper, but it's really not.
I'd love to hear your story. I don't know if you've applied to 3,000 jobs.
Yeah, 3,000 jobs is a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, again, the market is that bad, especially for offices. Offices, I don't know if you know, there's a story a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, something like that. But the leader of an AI firm basically said that 50% of white-collar jobs within the next 10 years will be worthless. They won't be there. They'll be AI. And on one hand, that's sure to bring a lot more money to the business. I mean, cutting costs, But on the other hand, kind of sucks for all those people trying to get jobs. That really fucks them over even more in a bad job market like this. So, yeah, back to the video. All right, reaction. Mike Rack 1 did a pretty solid job on that one. Now, again, the job market is cooked. It is relatively destroyed, matter of fact. And it's only going to get worse for a lot of our educated youth. a lot of people I know are going into college, and college is, in America, a pretty shitty time, at least money-wise. You're going through a really bad environment of having no money, bumming off ramen, probably getting drunk every so often, and putting your fucking effort in to actually stay in the classes. And for a lot of people, that's a tough fucking environment. That's a tough environment for anybody. But it's made even worse when you put in the factor that they will not be getting a job, at least in most of their desired fields. Go ahead and look up unemployment stats for just various majors. They look pretty low, but again, overeducation is a big issue. Overqualification, sorry, is a big issue. People are qualified for jobs that don't exist in the American job market, and that is an issue driving up a lot of bad factors. For example, I don't think we'd be as pissed off as we are if people just had a stable job, stable source of income, and worked a job they generally didn't hate. I do feel like that is fueling a lot of radicalization, because at the end of the day, things aren't that bad if you can afford everything. Why would you become, a fascist or a communist when you could just, sit around, work your job, get a house, afford to have a family? But with things being as bad as they are, yeah, you would want fucking change. You would want radical change if you couldn't afford your basic needs. And on top of that, I'd like to branch out off of this topic a little bit more and say the Democrats and Republicans are both doing a terrible job at actually making people feel engaged and making people feel like their problems are being addressed. The Republicans are at least trying nominally, but are still seen as kind of the party of like the old people and the rich, right? That's kind of what they're seen as, or to some people, the racists, which isn't a good stereotype to have. And I don't believe they're all racists. A lot of Republicans are actually pretty good people, but again, the worst are obviously the most pronounced. But the Democrats, the faction of liberalism and democracy and stuff like that, have continuously seemingly failed at every attempt ever to try and secure voters. Most people don't like either party, and especially disfavor the Democrats. The Democrats aren't even trying. They kind of seem to have this idea that they'll just get the voters in November no matter what. But that's not necessarily the case. And on top of that, things in America just seem a little bit cooked. One, inflation has gone up. The economy has not performed the way people thought it would in Trump's first 100 days and onward. And again, with tariffs being thrown out, that was pretty cool. For, helping the average American. But again, still probably a lot of work to go. One thing I did like is Trump's, and I try to be fair a little bit, I like Trump's bill that he proposed, where it was like, well, not a bill. He kind of just signed in an executive order, which means it'll be thrown out in the courts. But basically, Trump pushed in this huge thing that basically said, oh, if you charge $80 for some medical supplies in Britain, then that's what you have to charge in America. It's something like the best country fee or something. I don't know. You can put it on screen if you can remember it. But a lot of what that implies is actually pretty good. It would lower the price of medical items in the United States. Unfortunately, he did it through executive order, so it's not going to get pushed through, and kind of sucks. But also, unfortunately, is that it seems a lot of the stuff he's pushing through isn't going to get passed, which at this point, Americans are just starved of change and kind of just want that and want a big victory, and they're not really getting it. And a lot of these bills, if you look at them, aren't really well put together or thought out. The big beautiful bill is a big example. It would raise our deficits a huge amount, but whatever. Moving on from politics, the job market itself it's been bad. America especially, we contract out labor in office environments a lot. Notably, India is well known for it, but we even just bring people to go work here through a certain visa system and then basically kick them out when we're done with them, which puts them in a bad leverage position and is what it is. Point is, the job market is bad, but it's going to get a whole lot worse. This is an issue that I don't see a lot of people talking about, that AI is going to burn through office jobs like a beaver in the middle of a forest, or that one weird kid at band camp. But this isn't a good idea. This isn't a good idea. And personally, as somebody who has seen a lot of the effort these people are putting in to be straight A students, to go to these colleges, AI has completely just, how do I put this? Dissolved much of the meritocratic system we've built up as a nation. And, I mean, the chief of education we have in this country was a former WWE star. Look it up. Put it on screen. It is terrible. And It's only going to get worse before it gets mildly better. But I don't want to leave this on a bad note. There are jobs that will still be mostly human, notably service jobs, Starbucks, Uber. But with automatic self-driving cars, Uber's probably going to get phased out in a couple years. And a lot of those service jobs are starting to implement AI in some sort of way. Universal basic income would probably help a lot, but that kind of is something we're not really willing to pay right now because of, the $1 trillion military budget that we just proposed. Basically, we're a little bit cooked for the time being, but it can always get better, all right? And I don't want anybody to leave this thinking, hey, it's all over, we're cooked, I should end it all, because that's kind of stupid. You can always advocate for change in your own way, and I'm not going to tell you what way you should advocate for change. That's up to you to decide, okay? I'm no moral compass. I'm a 17-year-old, and I don't really know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. Again, you gotta keep that in mind. I'm not the best source of information on a lot of this stuff. I'm still stupid. But I'd like everybody to know that no matter what situation they're in, they can always become a live streamer. Make sure to have a great rest of your night.